Hey, welcome to this lesson video for converting to I form. So we're going to have radicals that have negatives underneath, and we're going to learn how to convert them to their I form, and then, add, subtract, multiply, or do whatever with those radicals. So, first off, writing in I form, how do you do that? Whenever you have a negative under your radical symbol, automatically, first thing you should do is get rid of the negative by putting an I out front and making the 3 turn positive. Next, radical to reduce any, but because 3 is a prime, this guy is done. So this is I form, simply just putting the I out. Okay? Now, this next one, I see a negative, so automatically I'm going to put an I out front, square root of 16. Now, 16, if you need to do a factor tree, or maybe you have square root of 16 memorized, square root of 16, 2, 8, 4, 2, 2, 2. You have a pair of 2's because we're talking about a square root house, and you have another pair of 2's. So a 2 from this set would come out with the I, and then another 2 would come out. So what do we do with those 2's? We multiply them. So here's what's happening. We have 4I, but was there anything left in your factor tree? Remember the 8 we broke up and the 4 we broke up even more, and we used them. So if a number branches anymore, you can't use that number. So 8 branched, 4 branched, so I can't use those. So technically there's nothing left in my factor tree, so nothing goes back in the house, so my answer is simply 4I. Now if you knew that the square root of 16 is 4, you could have made the jump. Okay, so those are I forms for those two guys. Let's look at this guy. I see the negative, so right off the bat, I'm going to put the I out front. So then that way I can actually do something with this radical. So I'm thinking 3 and 4 for 12, and then 2 and 2. So there's my pair. So that means a 2 comes out with the I, and then the 3 has to stay in. So there would be his I form. So that's really the basics about converting. Let's actually get into some math, like add, subtract, or do whatever with these guys. So I see negative, so I have the steps off to the side for you, and it says first to write both things in I form. So I'm going to put I radical 2 plus I radical 18. So that takes care of step 1. Now, radical 2, I know there's nothing I can do with, but radical 18, I'm going to reduce, because, to be able to add something, you have to have like radicals. So I'm going to do 2 and 9, I believe, as my pair, and then 3 and 3. So a 3 is going to come out with the I on the second term, and then we're going to have radical 2 left inside. So let me bring down this first term because he's going to be unchanged. Now, do I have like radicals? I have like radicals. So the numbers in front of those radicals, let me grab my highlighter real quick. Maybe. There we go. So this 1I and this 3I, I'm going to add those to get 4I. And then I'm going to keep the radical 2 attached. Okay, so there I could add them together. So the trick here is just to remember there's a 1 in front of that first term. Okay, let's try another one. This time, it's subtraction. First step says to do, though, is to put in I form. So both of those guys need an I out front. And then clearly 45 and 20, I need to do factor trees for these guys. So I'm going to go with 9 and 5. And I'm going to go with 4 and 5. Okay, so for that first radical, a 3 will come out with the I, and we'll have radical 5 left over because that 5 was left behind. Minus a 2 that comes out, so 2I. Radical 5 because he had a 5 left over too. So again, I've got like radicals. They're both radical 5s, so we can actually subtract here. 3I minus 2I would leave me with 1i radical 5. But technically, I could say that I don't need that 1. Okay, and I could say that this would be my difference. That would be my answer from subtraction. All right, cool beans. So of course, we added and subtract. Of course we can multiply too. So let's see what happens. First things first though, write in I form. So this is a negative radical, so I need to pull that I out. And then that 8 is negative, so I need to pull an I out there too. All right, so now we're ready to distribute. Okay, so think about our rules with radicals. Can I multiply the 6 times the 5? Well, actually I can't. 5 is outside, 6 is inside. So the 5 needs to stay outside with the I, and radical 6 stays in. Okay, now the next guy. Radical 6 and radical 8. Am I allowed to multiply 6 and 8? I am, because they're both under, so 6 times 8 is 48. But now how many i's do I have? I've got an I and another I. I actually have 2 i's, so I need to write that as I squared. And we talked about it in class, I squared is really a negative 1. So to keep things from getting less confusing, what we talked about is just scribbling out your I squared and basically changing the sign. Okay, so I'm going to treat this like I'm subtracting whatever number comes out when I factor treat. Okay, so 6 I can't factor. I mean, I could, it's a 3 and a 2, but there's no pairs. Okay, with 4 and 8, I think I'm going to go with 48, I'm sorry. I'm going to go with 4 and 12 and get 3 and 4 and 2 and 2 and 2 and 2. So take a look at all my pairs. I've got a pair of 2's and another pair of 2's. So a 2 will come out from this set and a 2 from this. So I'm going to have 2 2's that come outside. So let's see what's going to happen. We're going to have this first term unchanged, 5i radical 6. But I'm really going to be subtracting, because remember that I squared changed it from plus to a minus. It changed the sign. I'm really going to be subtracting 4 radical, what was left behind from that factor tree? 3. Now, can I subtract here? Well, no. Radical 6 and radical 3, those are different. So I can't subtract those, so I'm actually going to stop right here. All right, that was fun. Oh, that's the one we just did. Let me delete that. Okay, last one. Oh, a foiling one. Yes. So first, I form, like the directions say, pull the I out for the radical 7. I gotta do the same thing for the other radical 7. But this is a foiling one, so I'm gonna do the grid because a lot of you liked the grid with radicals. I know there were some of you that didn't, so you do your arrow thing or whatever you do to foil. But for the sake of what we did in class to be consistent, I'm gonna do the grid thing. So I'm gonna put the first group here and the second group going along the top. Remember to put that negative I, radical 7. And then we're gonna multiply to fill in. So we're gonna do 9 times 3 and we're gonna get 27. Here, we're going to have a negative 9i outside, radical 7. I can't multiply 9 and 7. 9's out, 7's in. Here, 3 is out, 7's in, so I have to keep 3i outside and 7 inside. Ah, here's where it gets good. Okay, so we've got, first of all, I'm going to write this, I guess here. I'm going to run out of room, I can already tell. I'm going to have a negative because this one term was negative. I have 2 i's outside, so we're going to have I squared outside. And then what's the trick? Radical 7 times radical 7, remember that just turns into a 7. So we've got a lot of things going on here. A negative answer times an I squared times a 7. I squared, we could scribble that out. And that's just going to change the sign. So since I have this negative sign here, it's actually going to turn it positive. And so in this bottom corner, we're just going to have a positive 7. That was kind of crazy, All right, a lot of things to keep track there. But now I am ready to add my like terms. So the real parts go first. So let me add my just normal numbers. 27 plus 7 is 34. And then this radical 7 can, can add together. So I'm doing 3i plus a negative 9i. So that would give me a negative 6i square root of 7. And that would be my product. Awesome. So that finishes up this lesson. Keep learning, guys, and have fun. I'll see you the next time.